Hello and welcome. Today, we're diving deep into the economy of Trinidad and Tobago. And let me tell you, if you're picturing a simple open market system, you might want to think again. We're about to untangle a fascinating power web that shows who's really pulling the strings. So let's just start with the big question right off the bat. Is Trinidad and Tobago a typical free market economy? You know, the kind you read about in textbooks, where competition is king and anyone can get in the game. Well, the short answer to that is not even close. The reality on the ground is so much more complex and, frankly, a whole lot more interesting than any standard model. So here's how we're going to break this all down. First, we'll talk about what makes this market so different. Then we'll look at the three major players: the huge local conglomerates, the government, which is way more than just a referee, and of course, the big-time foreign investors. And finally, we'll see how it all weaves together. Okay, first things first. We need to get a handle on this unique economic landscape. It's not a free-for-all. It's what our sources are calling a hybrid model. So at the very heart of this thing, you've got these three massive interconnected forces. You have these incredibly powerful local business empires, you have a government that's an active player in the market, and you have influential foreign capital. These are basically the three pillars holding the entire structure up. And you know what? You can literally see this relationship in the real world. Just look at Nicholas Towers, a huge landmark in Port of Spain. It was built with private money, right? But guess who its main tenants are? Yep, government agencies, including the Prime Minister's office. It's a skyscraper that perfectly symbolizes this deep, deep link between private business and the state. All right, let's talk about that first pillar, the giant local conglomerates. And we're not just talking about big companies here. These are massive empires with their fingers in just about every single pie you can imagine. Insamacol is the perfect example. I mean, think of an industry: brewing, finance, real estate, retail, manufacturing. They're in it. You name a sector, chances are they are a major, if not the dominant player. Now, this is where a classic business principle gets turned completely on its head. Usually, you diversify to spread your risk, right? But here, it actually concentrates it. When everything from the bank to the grocery store is owned by the same group, a problem in one area can create a massive domino effect. One company's trouble can become a national crisis, like overnight. And that idea of a national crisis brings us perfectly to our second pillar, the state. And honestly, there's no better way to understand the state's role than by looking at the absolutely dramatic collapse of another one of these giants, CL Financial. I mean, the scale of this was just jaw-dropping. We're talking about a company with assets over 100 billion Trinidad and Tobago dollars. So when it went under in 2009, it didn't just stumble. It threatened to drag the entire country's financial system down with it. The government had to step in with a colossal bailout. This is where we get this key idea from our sources: the state as a market operator. This wasn't just about writing a check. The government had to roll up its sleeves and get involved, actively managing the sale of private assets. We're talking malls, factories, and reallocating huge blocks of shares just to stop the bleeding. And here's the kicker. The direct result of that intervention, because CL Financial owned a massive chunk of Republic Bank, those shares ended up in the hands of entities controlled by the state. So today, state-linked bodies own almost half the shares of one of the biggest private banks in the nation. The state's power grew exponentially, basically in an instant. So we've got the local giants, we've got the strategic state. Time for pillar number 3, the huge and very, very concentrated influence of foreign capital. Let's look at the banking sector again. You've got these big foreign players like Canada's RBC supposedly competing with the local giant Republic Bank. But are they really competing head-to-head? Turns out they actually own stakes in each other. It's called interlocking shareholding, and it suggests less of a fierce rivalry and more of a, let's say, a cozy arrangement that keeps things stable for the big players. So where is all this foreign money actually going? Well, this chart says it all loud and clear. The overwhelming majority of foreign direct investment, or FDI, flows into one place and one place only: the energy sector. That's the engine driving the whole economy. And just how tilted is it? Get ready for this number. A mere 4 foreign energy supermajors produce around 95% of the entire nation's natural gas. That is an unbelievable level of concentration in the most vital sector of the economy. Okay, let's put all the pieces together. We've got the powerful local giants, an interventionist state, and highly concentrated foreign capital. So what does this interlocking power web actually mean in practice? Well, this brings us to probably the single most important takeaway. This is not some gladiator arena of pure competition. In this hybrid model, success isn't about beating your rivals into the ground. It's about your ability to partner and navigate relationships with the powerful state and local players who run the show. There's a quote from our source material that just sums this up perfectly. The lines are blurry between public policy, state interests, and private conglomerates. In this system, it's incredibly hard to tell where one ends and the other begins. The government is always a part of the conversation. And all of this leaves us with one final, really critical question to think about. If, at the end of the day, the state is forced to rescue a massive private company to prevent a total economic meltdown, what does that really tell us about the limits of privatization in an economy that's built like this? It's definitely something to chew on.